Hello, welcome back to another SwansCast podcast, and Lee is rejoining me this week after I spoke very nicely about him last week.
Yeah, appreciate that, but good to be back.
Yeah, but it's true though, isn't it? Because you won your last week and they won again. Well, they didn't win. They didn't lose again, I should say.
Yeah. So you can bet that we're going to lose this week because I'm back with a bang.
Yeah, if we lose against Ipswich, then Lee's a curse. That's what this is going to test. But we'll get on to that. So the agenda today, obviously got plenty to talk about.
It's shaping up to be my last podcast then.
Definitely not. You can't escape that easy. Lots on the agenda today. Obviously, we've got that game that we had last week, which was Swansea 0, Sunderland 0. As much as you think, 0-0, nothing to talk about there. Quite a few things to mention about that game. I'm sure everyone has got an opinion about certain goings on and performances, not necessarily the players, but we'll get to that, obviously. We mentioned we're going up to Ipswich. We did debate going up, didn't we? But unfortunately, it's a bit of a trek, and not gonna go for this time. I was talking to Ben Bloom, so if you want to watch the preview video for the Ipswich game, that is live now, where I join Championship channel legend from YouTube, Benjamin Bloom. I'm sure a lot of people have seen his content on YouTube already, but he joined me to talk about Ipswich because that's his club, and he was telling us about the route. You've got to go basically all around the outskirts of London to get to Ipswich, so it's a bit of a nightmare. And if there's an accident on one side of the M25, sometimes they reroute you the opposite direction. So
yeah, it's a hell of a trek to Ipswich and Norwich and that way, so hats off to anybody going. I mean, we did think about it, but also it's like 31 quid a ticket as well, wasn't it? Which is
it 31?
Higher end, yeah, not as high as Leeds. The Leeds tickets came out this week, didn't they? And that was ridiculous.
Well, they still think they're in the Premier League, I think.
£40 a ticket in the Championship. It's just disgusting.
It's one of them, innit? I think Leeds have been subject to some clubs asking, like, can you reduce the ticket prices? And they say no. You know, the thing that a lot of clubs offer where they'll subsidise the price to cap it at a certain level, but they'll only do it if you offer it to their clubs in return. And I saw a debate where some fans of other clubs were going at Leeds fans saying your club's prices are ridiculous, and they were saying, yeah, but you're charging us the same coming down. And it was a case of, like, the clubs had obviously spoke, and if Leeds wouldn't do them a favour, they basically repaid the favour back, if you like, with the higher ticket prices to them. So maybe the Leeds fans didn't understand what was going on there, but obviously it's their club that's causing the issue.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, and I think, like, Leeds is probably, because we've got that tier system now, haven't we, for home games. So I think, like, Leeds is, which baffles me a bit, but I can't remember what the pricing was, because obviously it comes with my season ticket, but I think, so they've upped the price for, like, Leicester and Southampton and Leeds. So
and Cardiff.
Obviously.
That's for home games. I'm sure Swans are good with the away games. If the other team does the same, they'll lower the price for the away fans. But the idea is the club pays the difference, I believe.
Yeah, 46 quid, I think it was, for a ticket. And I think because Leeds is a bit of a trek as well, I think if you get in the bus, it's like 30 odd quid. So, you're approaching 80 quid before you've done anything.
Yeah, no thank you to that. That's obviously a bigger discussion, maybe for another time, ticket prices in the Football League in general. I mean, there's that long time debate if you can, with some Premier League teams, go to Germany and watch a top tier football match, getting a cheap flight for cheaper than going to, like, Arsenal, for example. But I
remember that season when we were in the Prem, when we brought in that 20 quid for every away game, wasn't it? Everywhere we went, it was 20 quid, so that was good. But
that's what I think they're still trying to do, is just not all the clubs are on board, so they communicate individually, and there are other clubs that do the same thing. It's just not across the board, unfortunately. It would be good if something could be brought in that makes that consistent. Because the point is, I guess, you're charging your home fans the price, but because you've got to encourage people to travel and pay the travel costs, they wanted to subsidise the ticket prices to be lower to make it more doable, especially long distances.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about, I'm sure, Leeds coming up soon, so we'll have more to say on that. We'll do a 2 up, 2 down, a brief overview of what's going on in the league. Couple of, maybe not shock results, but some teams that didn't seem to be able to lose did this week. And we've also got a bit of question time where we put out on Twitter, got some comments from some of you that we will read out and answer as well as a bit of news to talk about at the club in regards to some investment. Be interesting to get your thoughts on that, I guess, as well, Lee. So let's start with Swansea versus Sunderland last week. Or actually, what I'll mention before we get into the football, in the next coming week, stay tuned. We're not going to announce anything officially now, but there should be some exciting guests coming on soon. Looking forward to that.
Yep.
But that's what I'm going to say at the moment. Okay, Swansea versus Sunderland. What do you think? Where do you want to start?
I guess we could start with the red card. I guess probably the best place to start because that changes the game.
Yeah, so let's overview Swansea 0, Sunderland 0 at home. I would say before the incident, the red card, Swansea didn't really look like the team on top, if we're honest. We weren't playing amazing. No. But that was also still a defining moment of the game. Changed the game plan. I think ruined the game ultimately for both teams. Sunderland probably thought they had a chance against someone out of the game before the red card, and maybe would have been more likely to, but we obviously had to change our game plan as a result of going to 10 men and really killed the game in terms of a spectacle for any fan to watch. I think you're happy if you end the game 0-0 from the team who had the man sent off. Even if it wasn't an enjoyable watch, you can appreciate the defensive effort, but maybe killed the game in terms of excitement and spectacle, if you like. But yeah, what do you think of the red card then?
I think it was ridiculously harsh, especially that first yellow card. I think it was probably the first challenge of the game, or one of the first challenges of the game, and he books him. So I think it's really, really soft. So I was a bit annoyed at that, especially when it's a thing with yellow cards recently. You watch a game and you just know it's coming. You see a couple of challenges going in from the opposition team, and you think, oh, it's got to be a yellow coming, and then you know Swans make a tackle, first challenge, he's in the book. There's just no consistency with it whatsoever, different refs every week. But anyway, he gets that yellow card, which is very, very soft, and then the second one is probably more of a yellow card because he does give the referee a decision to make when he does kind of dangle his leg out like that, and the way the player goes down makes it look a bit worse. But I don't know. I just think he's a bit too. He's a bit too quick.
It's soft, though,
yellow.
isn't it?
Oh, it is soft. Of course, it's soft. They're both soft. I was just saying he's like very quick to make that decision and give that yellow out, especially after he's given a soft one. I think he could have been lenient with the second one. And I know it shouldn't be the case where you say, well, he's on a yellow card. If it's a yellow, it's another yellow. But you see in a lot of games where if it's someone's second yellow, they are a little bit more lenient.
They're like, right, no, another one now. Otherwise, you're gone.
Yeah, that's your. Especially, but like I said, especially after the first one was so soft. I think and it wasn't as if like Patino was committing fouls all over the field and it was like his fifth or sixth challenge. I think it was 2 fouls he committed and he had 2 yellow cards.
I just said I was trying to scrutinise the replays of it just before we come on, and the referee, I'm sure everyone knows his name, Bobby Madley or Robert Madley, whatever you want to call him. I believe he got demoted from the Premier League recently to the Championship because that's how it works. If you don't do very well, they put you in the lower league. I got a bit we can say about that as well. I'm not sure that's the best system, but before we get to that part, he was the ref. So I watched it and he watches the challenge. So obviously Patino makes a challenge on the Sunderland player. The Sunderland player goes down, but the referee, he kind of watches the challenge. The ball comes out, is played away, and he kind of looks away, follows the play, and then turns his head back, sees the guy on the floor, and then decides he needs to blow his whistle. So he's already kind of moved on. He's moved away. He's looking somewhere else. He's following the game after seeing the challenge, and then just glances back 2 seconds later, sees the guy on the floor, and decides, oh, actually, maybe I should blow the whistle. But if you think it's a foul, you know it's a foul the first time you saw it. You don't have to glance back and see the outcome to then think it's a foul. Yeah. Especially then to also book the player.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about that second challenge. I think the way the player goes down.
Well, that was the first one.
Yeah, I know that was the first one. It was similar to the second one. I think the way that I can't remember who the player was, but he's coming at speed, and Patino kind of dangles his leg up. But I think the way he goes down at speed probably makes his mind up. Even though if you look at the challenge just in isolation, it's not anything malicious. It's not a bad, it's not a horrendous tackle. I don't think.
Was there actually any contact?
There's hardly any contact in it, and that's what I'm saying. The way he goes down makes the referee's mind up, I think.
Yeah, he probably thought he was doing his team a favour, but as I said, probably made it a bit more difficult for them. I think Sunderland looked like they were having more opportunities before the goal. I think especially second half. Speaking to Graham, who I did the preview with, he said they struggled as soon as we were up down to 10 men. They struggled to really. Obviously, they had shots and they had chances, but they weren't as perhaps clear chances as what they would have had if it was 11 versus 11 going at each other. But there we are. That's what red cards can do sometimes. Before we move on to the rest of the game, let's just stick on the ref. So say he was demoted from the Premier League because of poor performances. So the punishment is to go to the Championship, right? You're not going to get top tier games because you made mistakes, you made errors. So we're going to put you in a Championship game. But surely that is a flawed system because you're still going to referee a game of professional football. So I understand with football players, if they don't perform at the highest level in the Premier League, they'll go to a lower team because they're not good enough for the Premier League. I don't think that same argument works with refereeing because ultimately, no matter what league you're in, refereeing standards should be the same. It should be black and white in terms of the rules. The referee follows the rules. And I understand some are always going to, control a game better. I get that. But if you're saying you're not doing well enough at the top tier, the punishment shouldn't be right. You're dropping down to Championship now to see if you can sort yourself out. Because it's still a high level of football and you still expect the same sort of, the same way of controlling that, the same way of refereeing it. I don't really think that makes sense.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, no, I do agree with you. I think it makes sense only I think if you have the top referees at the top level of the game, like if you've got massive games, I think you want the ones that are not going to come on, not going to succumb to the pressure. I get that, but I agree with what you're saying about like relegating them to the Championship because like essentially what you're saying is it's like, all right, you've made a mistake up here, go referee a less important game. And, and the pressure's off because it's not as important, so you can get yourself sorted. So they maybe not, but maybe they've got that mentality where like, oh, the pressure's off now. I can just sort of like, do whatever I want to do. A bad
There's no Sky cameras.
Not
going to be all over social media. We're not going to be under the cosh when you do something wrong. And then if you use VAR wrong as well, we'll have even more heat from everyone. So get rid of the VAR, make your own mistakes, right? And you're in the Championship and no one will care.
Yeah, what essentially they do is they think like, right, we'll bury you in the Championship for a couple of weeks so people forget the mistake you've made in the Premier League, and then in 4 or 5 weeks you'll referee like a Sheffield United Wolves. You'll just come back in, and I agree. I don't think that's the way to do it because it's only Swansea fans. If we kick off about the referee after he's had a terrible performance, like who's really going to listen?
No, it's shocking. Like, look, just to come to what I said. On the way up, it's different, I think, with experience. You go a new referee. You've got to learn the trades and you're going to work your way up. And making a mistake because of experience is different from making like these errors that we're talking about that happened in this game. Especially when if you get up to the level of being Premier League and then you make big errors that cost teams big decisions in matches, the punishment just can't be go and cost another team just because they're in a lower league. Because that's ultimately what's happened. He got demoted for not being good enough. And he's had a howler in his first match. I believe it's his first match since being demoted. And he had a howler. Like, an absolute howler. Like, we're going to the penalty as well. But I don't know what you think of that. If that was quite a soft decision too. Probably. Yeah. But then is he doing that because he thinks he's made the mistake for the red card? And yeah, we could have benefited from it. But like, if there was no red card and that penalty, I'm sure Sunderland fans would be not so happy. I think the general consensus is people say Sunderland was playing with 12 men on the weekend. It's just unfortunate that we perhaps got the brunt of a bad refereeing performance out of the two teams. Yeah. But that can't be the punishment. There's got to be a better way. If they're not good enough for the Premier League, they need to find a way of fixing the issue, not just putting it under the carpet, because that's all they're doing.
Yeah, look, we've how many times we come on this season, especially, and moaned about refereeing decisions. When we've done the 2 up and 2 down, I think the first 3-4 weeks of the season, one of my downs was a referee decision. Some of them I've seen across
the offsides,
the league,
for Southampton.
Yeah, not just for us, but across the championship has been horrendous. And I know, like, we're probably going off topic a bit, but when we talk about VAR, I don't think everyone says, "Oh, VAR's awful, VAR's awful." I don't think it is. It's just that's just a video system. The way they referee it is bad. The actual people doing the refereeing are horrendous in this country.
It's the people that use the VAR, and it's the rules that are written on how you're allowed to use it that are the issues. The technology is just technology. You just got to utilize the technology correctly, and I don't think football is doing that with VAR.
No, it's not. Like we watch the rugby as well, don't we? And like, look how they use the technology, and other sports as well, like cricket and tennis. They all use the technology now, and it just doesn't seem to have the same, controversies as it does in football. Because they just that one with Liverpool and Spurs, when they're that offside and they released the audio. How are they getting it? How wrong?
But that's what I'm going to say. So that audio just shows the main issue with VAR for me, and it's in stark contrast to why rugby gets it so right with the TMO. The TMO, when you watch the TMO in action, the biggest takeaway is the concise and clear communication from every party of referee involved in that TMO system as it's in operation. And if you listen to that audio we just mentioned from that Liverpool Spurs clip, that's the complete contrast of what rugby do with the TMO. That was just carnage, like a mess, just chaos, and no one knew what was going on. And that's what the issue is, the communication and the rules around, the refs don't know how to use it when they're in live action. They don't know when is it okay to ask a question, or then the people on the video maybe don't know when to step in. And there's mistakes on both ends,
They're absolutely scared stiff of like stepping in and making a decision. Like we said in the rugby, the TMO comes in all the time and says like, check, whatever. I've seen something. Look, I think you should have a look at this. I think this is dodgy. There's like confidence, so they can come in, and I think you said the communication is great because the referee can be like, right, this is what I'm seeing. Walks through the steps, walks through the rules, and rarely you've got quarrels. Sometimes they get it wrong, obviously, but rarely people bemoan the decision.
But even when they do moan at the decision, you've also heard how they got there.
Exactly.
And you know exactly why they made the decision, even if you don't agree with it.
Yeah, that's the same. Like I watch a lot of the NFL, and they're like they do have a lot of dodgy calls, but they explain it really well as well because they got the mic to the stands, haven't they? They've got the mic to the crowd, and they say what's going on and what they've seen. I just think football's way behind, especially over here. I don't know what I don't watch a lot of European football week in, week out, but I don't know if it's as bad as it is over here. Everybody's frightened of making that decision.
Yeah, and I think football didn't want to do TMO when it came in because they were worried about the stoppages in the game. But I think the VAR's got to the point of such a bad rep. I don't think anyone would have complaints if they went full copy. I think they got to they just need to copy what they're doing in rugby. They've already introduced the added time aspect, which is trying to get rid of wasting time and stuff. So I think they're halfway on the course of getting to where they need to be with that. For me, I would just scrap that and just stop the clock.
Yeah,
same.
They definitely got to stop the clock. Remember, we said this on another podcast. Remember when at the start of the season it was all about time wasting and everybody was getting booked for wasting time, and that's kind of just disappeared now.
Yeah, but then that Chelsea Spurs game, they had 20 minutes of extra time nearly, didn't they?
What a game! Oh, did you watch that? That was absolute carnage.
I didn't, but I heard many things. But but that's what I'm saying. That's an example of big added time again. There's a lot of VAR used in that game, a lot of disallowed goals and all that sort of stuff. So I think it just goes, if you want to fix VAR, that's part of it for me. Just add the stopwatch, because
I think so.
Why add the time on at the end? Just pause what you're doing already.
Yeah,
and then you take any of that stress away of how long have you stopped the game for as well, because you're not gonna ever have the position where somebody can be like, oh well, they didn't add the right amount of time on, so we were actually short of, we could have made the comeback or whatever, but they didn't give us the amount of time.
And I think as well, it's one of my biggest bugbears watching is when, players are rolling around and then 2 minutes later they're running around like a gazelle. I just think if someone goes down on
They'd
the
get
floor
up,
and they
wouldn't
need
they?
treatment, yeah, they just go like, oh well, the time is stopped, so you stay down
Yeah.
as long as you want, and I think it would stop that.
Yeah, they wouldn't try to go down in the first place. The other thing I think would add a bit of excitement, and this is again, we're going massively off on a tangent, we'll
Yeah.
come back now. But if they did do it that way, where it was stop clock, when the clock gets 90, a slight change to what football's like now. But imagine it was a case of, all right, the ref's not just going to blow up on 90 minutes, but the clock's gone 90, and when it goes out of play next time, that's the game ended. Imagine that last like action.
That'd be mad.
You're 1-0 down or something, or it's 0-0, and you know the next time the ball goes off the pitch or foul or whatever, that's it. Maybe not foul because they probably get to play that on, wouldn't they? But that would be insane ends to the game, make it a bit exciting. And I know they're trying to add excitement and stuff with certain things.
Yeah, that would be class if they did that. That would be,
yeah. And then you score a goal after that time and win the game. Like it would be riots.
Yeah, it's like last play sort of thing. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, golden goal, literally.
Golden goal. Yeah, I can't remember that.
Anyway, let's move on. Jamal Lowe penalty. So we said the penalty was a bit soft. Harry Darlin brought down in some capacity in a corner.
Yeah, was it Darlin or Cullen or like a combination?
One of them. It says Darlin on the they were on the replay. They were calling it as Darlin, but something happened. There's a bit of a cluster of people. Anyway, we got a penalty. Couldn't take advantage though because Jamal Lowe decided to pass the ball back to the goalkeeper. I know you had a lot to say about the penalty at the time, so do you want to have a little bit of a rant?
Lowe has been good on pen since he's got here, but I absolutely hate that run up to penalties. I know Ayew used to do it as well, and I know he scored a lot, but I just cannot stand.
He did miss though.
He did miss a few, but like I just can't stand. He missed in the playoff semi-final, didn't he, against Brentford at home?
Yeah.
I can't understand why players do that run up. You run up slow. I get what they're trying to do. They try and get the keeper to move. But the problem is, if you're walking up that slow, if the keeper doesn't move, then you can't generate any power in your shot. So you've either got to hope that the keeper dives the wrong way, or you've got to get it right in the corner, which Lowe doesn't do. He goes up. There's no power on it. It's not in the corner, and it's easy for the keeper to save. So I think, look, I'm not gonna criticize him too much, but I think you do open yourself up to criticism. If you do that penalty and you miss, then it's your fault. You shouldn't. If a player runs up and absolutely puts his laces through it and the keeper saves it, then great save.
Well done, keeper.
You've hit the target. Well done, keeper. And I don't understand why we took Grimes off penalties because he's a great penalty taker.
He's never missed one in like either 7, maybe. I think he's had over his time here.
He's got a lovely left foot. He absolutely smashes his penalties. If the keeper saves them,
I don't understand. Great. He's been in and out of doing them. He's never consistently done them for a long period. He's kind of done them, and then we have a like main person, for example, and they're taking penalties all of a sudden. So like Andre Ayew.
Yeah.
And then he leaves and it goes back to Grimes and then there's someone else. Like, do you know what I mean?
He's like a stopgap, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like a stopgap, but also I feel the most confident when he's standing over it.
Yeah, so do I.
And he's always scored every single one for us that he's taken.
Yeah, I don't understand the decision. I wouldn't be surprised if stuff goes on behind the scenes, like in contracts and stuff, that they have to take penalties or and they get goal bonuses and stuff, don't they, strikers? So
yeah, I get it when Andre Ayew was, I would imagine he might have in a nice way made that happen. I can't imagine Jamal Lowe would have had something like that.
Maybe
that
not.
Must be a choice.
Yeah, maybe not, but I don't understand because like you said, Grimes every time he takes penalties he looks solid. I'm confident that he's at least going to hit the target. And if even if he doesn't score, he's going to force the keeper into making an unbelievable save. So, it's an odd decision to give it back to Lowe. But anyway, but again, even if they do decide that it goes back to Lowe for whatever reason, if I was a manager, I'd be absolutely ripping my hair out. Say if with players taking penalties like that, walking up, I don't see any point in it at all.
Do you think we would have managed to hold on to a 1-0 lead if that'd gone in?
I don't know. Well, the simple answer would be yes, wouldn't it? Because we went on to get a 0-0, but you don't know how the game's going to change when we're 1-0 up. the players relax a little bit more because they got the lead, and then maybe they switch off a little bit. I don't know, you don't know, but going in 1-0 up at half time, it's a different game, isn't it? It's a massive moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, speaking of the performance, the defensive performance then, we said Duff's first priority as Swansea manager was to sort the defence out. That wasn't great necessarily under Russell Martin. Now, we haven't seen it all the time this season, and there's been criticism that sometimes during the end of the games we sit back or he goes a bit too defensive to protect the 1-0. QPR, for example, and it didn't work. People questioned when they brought on an extra defender and then they obviously got the equaliser. However, maybe this is the first time it's really shown what he's brought in that department, because I think it has been acknowledged by himself that he did want to make us more solid before going further with his style. He saw that as one of the key priorities. I think the recruitment suggested as such as well, with the amount of defenders brought in. But who expected us to hold on after the red card for 0-0? I, for one, thought it was like, not getting anything here now.
Yeah, same. I'd written it off.
I
thought when we went down to 10 men, I thought that was it. I thought they were going to score at some point. But that's where you've got to give credit to to Duff and the players, really, because they all stuck at it.
I was going to say, in as fair as perhaps it was me criticising what was a lacklustre performance before the red card, as much as it wasn't, an awful load of the game. The first 30 minutes before Patino's red card, we weren't really great, didn't look that good. You have to then credit the different game they had to play after that point, and mainly the second half in the defensive performance they put in, and to make sure that they didn't lose the game at that point. So fair play to them. Sunderland had 25 shots, but only 3 were on target. So I think that speaks volumes of the defensive performance. They were obviously getting opportunities, but they weren't clear cut and maybe from distance, all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
made it difficult for them.
Yeah, it did. I full credit, because I think when you're in that situation, like when you've got 10 men, you've got to completely rip up what you've been planning all week, and everybody has to sort of sacrifice and get involved. Everyone has to be in it together, sort of thing. And I think if you've got a fractured squad, where people like to say, managers have lost the dressing room and players are not interested, and look, they don't care, and all this, and then I think when that happens, you can see that they actually do, because they they dug in deep there, which was good to see. And I think and again, in a point like that, in some ways where you've played bad, you've gone down to 10 men, and you've got a point. I think in some ways that's more important than getting a win, in terms of the whole season, where we know we can do that now. If we're ever in those situations, we've got that ability to grind out a result.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it gets looked. I think it gets been getting looked over as well, of how good Sunderland are. I think they've been a little bit unmentioned. I think they're really, they got to the playoffs last year. They've had a great, not great, but they've a decent start to the season. Clark has been brilliant for them. That's a hard game, so to get a 0-0 draw with 10 men, I think is a great result.
They're on good form, and they picked up just before we played them as well. Yeah. They're sitting in 8th. They're only currently 2 points off.
They're a good side. Sunderland are a good side.
They're going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. But yeah, so credit to Swansea. Obviously, on to the next game now, which is Ipswich. But before we go there, just to mention particular performances of note, and I think Carl Rushworth deserves all the plaudits that he got for this game. Yeah, showing definitely why he's been brought in on loan. Maybe had some moments at the start of his Swansea career that were a bit nervy, but he's definitely settling in and making a name for himself now in the shirt. I've seen a lot of conversation about, is he the best keeper we've had since we come to the Championship, essentially. I don't know what you make of that, personally. Is it too early to say still, or has he got a shout?
Yeah, I probably is a little bit early to say, but he was great on Saturday. I think we'll watch his space. Yeah.
Any chance of re-signing him, do you think?
I doubt it. And a young English goalkeeper, I think it'd be hard to sign him. The only criticism I have with him, he's a fantastic shot stopper. Obviously, it's not a major criticism. I just think his distribution's a bit poor sometimes. The amount of times he kicks the ball into touch, when he's looking for someone. It just seems to like at least 2 or 3 times a game. So that's the only criticism I have of him, really. But no, he's been great.
Yeah, he has been good. Okay, so this week on the pitch, Swansea are going to head down the M4 and further to Ipswich, all the way on the east coast, well, on the east of the UK. Long trip, but they maybe are in their poorest form of the season so far. I say poorest form. They didn't lose for a while, but they drew their last 2 games going into this one. Maybe it's the best opportunity we would have to have played them so far, but it's still a tricky game nonetheless. So what do you think going into this one?
Yeah, I don't know really, because with the Swans at the moment, I think we probably are a better team playing away from home, where I think, especially against teams towards the top end of the league, I think it suits us better. Not that we're a team that sits back and we totally sit back and play on the counter attack, but I do think that has been a big part of our game this season. Whereas at home, we're probably finding it harder to break teams down. I think we do look better on the road. So I'm quite excited about this game because I think it's a game where we will put in a good performance.
So, Leif Davis of Ipswich, right? He's already from left back or left wing back, left back. I think he plays. He's already got 7 assists.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
It's not even Christmas yet.
Yeah,
remember when like Connor Roberts and Bidwell were like 8 and 9 for the season?
Yeah.
And we were like raving about it.
Yeah.
But he's on 7 already this season so far. So he's definitely one of their main threats. Going into this game, though, there's definitely going to be some changes for the Swans. At least one, because Charlie Patino is obviously unavailable. So who comes in to replace him?
The square's going to have to be Fulton, isn't it?
Do you think? Because I said the same thing when I was talking to Ben Bloom. I said Fulton's definitely going to come in, and especially away from home. I'd imagine it probably will be. But Duff has been speaking well of Liam Walsh in conference this week. His words saying he was outstanding in training this week. Specifically, the word outstanding, standing out. But I didn't consider that to be an option. I forgot, really, that there is another option there, and he has been on the bench for the last few weeks, coming off the bench in some of the games. I just don't know if he will start in with Grimes away from home.
Yeah, no, I think I do think it's going to be Fulton away from home. I think you're right there. I think Walsh is a great player when he's fit, and I think like you said, he has talked about him this week. But I think it's got to be Grimes and Fulton for me.
Maybe Walsh comes in further up the pitch and there's a bit of rotation in the forward line then, because
maybe
haven't been changed at all, have they, for a while?
No, I think we are desperate in that area, really, and it's so strange now with all the injuries we've got, where we thought we had a good squad at one point, where we had so many options, and now you just know what the team has to be every week because of the injuries we've got. You know what it's going to be, barring 1 or 2.
Yeah, I've had 100% on FanHub for like 3 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, I know. It's just because you know what it's going to be because of all the injuries we've got. So I think if he can see us through till if we can see this through until January, when we get maybe like Wood comes back and hopefully Joe Allen is fit at some point, and maybe we even have 1 or 2 in through the door in January, I think we'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, hopefully. Obviously, we've still got a few more coming back as well. One that we forgot when we've discussed all of the injury problems was Abdullah. And, he's a midfielder first and foremost. He's been covering wing back for us. I think he can do a job of winger as well. So he's versatile and could help. Got a bit of speed, doesn't he? So on the wing,
the thing is, it's having different options. So even if Abdullah doesn't start every game, it's just having someone on the bench to bring on just to try something different, because the players we've got at the moment, they all just seem to be a bit like for like, don't they? It's not, it's not a massive criticism. It's just saying it's unlucky with the injuries that we've got. Like, you can bring in, I don't know, maybe bring in Ollie Cooper for Patterson, but they're quite similar players. You've got Lowe, Cullen, and Yates playing, and that's about it. There's nothing different. Kuharovic is injured, who maybe gives you something different. He's very limited in what he can do at the moment. So we desperately need some of these players come back. Key is a big miss as well, being injured, because he's been so good. He's been a massive miss.
Yeah. So Alan Wood, Kujarevic, Abdullahi, Key, all out for this game. Obviously Janelli as well.
Yeah.
I think I've got them all there, but they'll be missed. Okay, but yeah, Ipswich this week, so check that out, 3 o'clock Saturday. Good luck to anyone. Well, good luck. Safe drive to anyone that is making the trip, and hopefully you see a good performance on the weekend.
Yeah.
Look at the championship table then. So I've got 2 up this week. Leeds managed to go away to Leicester and pick up a win.
Yeah, it was a hell of a result that was, wasn't it? Massive game. I think that's a big statement that was for Leeds to go to Leicester and win. I enjoyed that as well. Good game.
Is it like too little, too late at this point, or?
Oh yeah, I can't see. I can't see Leicester not winning the league, but I think Leeds had a lot of criticism than they at the beginning of the season because they had a really slow, poor start, didn't they, with all their transfers going on and players not wanting to play, and they didn't have enough players for the bench at one stage, didn't they? So for them to now be picking up form, beating Leicester on the road, I think is a massive result for them. I think they'll be up there now when they come the end of the season.
And it's only like Leicester's second loss of the
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
I'm sure they'll be fine.
It's nothing much to worry about for them.
Do you know what though? They've actually lost more games than Ipswich now.
Ipswich, just outstanding. The way that they've kept that up as well. They kept this. I'm sure if Ipswich drew in the week, didn't they? They had a game in hand against Rotherham.
Well, that's on my list to talk about. So Rooney. Well, it was Birmingham first. We didn't do 2 up, 2 down last week, so I've got it. But Birmingham picking up their first points under Wayne Rooney, I think it is. Well, they had a few losses in a row, definitely, and they managed to get a draw at Ipswich, but they did also draw the next game then, Ipswich. So they did 2 in a row.
Yeah, but Birmingham were 2-0 up, I think, weren't they, against Ipswich? And
they were, and I understand. Yeah, so it's 2-2 all draws for Ipswich in the last week. So they had a midweek round against Rotherham, which was only Tuesday night. So we're recording this Thursday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
So that's why when I was looking at this, I got Birmingham because it was from the weekend, and not every team has played midweek. But yeah, 2-2 all draws for Ipswich, both away. So I mean, maybe they'd be leggy as well going into our game. Maybe that'll suit and help us, but we'll see. They definitely play better at home, Ipswich do. Top goal scorers in the league. But the positive I was picking up was Wayne Rooney, essentially, because he's come under a lot of criticism since he's taken over at Birmingham. A lot of people disagree with that appointment. And yeah, managed to get a good point there.
That's baffling, though, isn't it, that they got rid of Eustace when they were doing well to bring in Rooney. And yeah, I mean, the pressure was probably on him at that point because everybody was criticising the decision. So
it's not his fault, ultimately, is it? But yeah,
it's an
stemmed the tide. 3 straight defeats they had before that. And they looked decent at the start of the season. Weird.
Yeah, it's the league, though. Again, we say this week in, week out. I think it's just happening to everybody. So all of a sudden,
but I think it's that change, that managerial change.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I was just like saying, going back to Ipswich, I think like saying that they drew that game against Rotherham. If they had won that game, they'd only be a point behind Leicester with the same games played.
I know.
And we're saying how good Leicester are going to run away with the league, and Ipswich would have only been a point off them if they'd won that game against Rotherham.
It's nuts. They Ben Bloom thinks they're not going to quite keep up, but I think you've got to be happy with it. If you're an Ipswich fan coming up from League One and where you are now, you've definitely got to be happy with that.
Yeah, I can't remember who he was. I think from the outside, I think all other fans are going to say that they'll drop off at some point. I hope they don't, because they've done so well. I hope they carry on. I think I can't remember who it was on TalkSport that said that they've promoted them already. They've said it's finished. They're going up.
Remember the predictions we did at the start of the season? You wouldn't let me put them high.
To be fair, they've been brilliant.
I'm going to hold that until the end of the season, because you both overruled me on Ipswich being higher than what we ended up putting them. Yeah. And well,
fair enough.
I'm going to own that one. I got
to take that one on the chin.
Yeah. Anyway, 2 down was Norwich and Coventry. I think Norwich have really fallen off a cliff a little bit of late. Didn't they have a managerial change as well, or the manager got sacked or something?
It's on
the horizon.
Yeah, they're a new manager in the summer. It's Wagner, isn't it? David Wagner, and then
Yeah, he's either under very, very intense scrutiny at the moment, or they
yeah,
might have got rid.
no, he's they sacked QPR's manager got sacked, didn't he? And
Wagner
Ruud
is still
Gustaf.
there.
Is
I
he still
think
there?
he's on the last stroke though, Wagner.
Yeah,
From
he is.
what I'm hearing from our Norwich correspondents, podcast friends, if you like, but they're not happy with him. They want him gone.
Yeah,
I mean, the results are not good. They've had one win in like 9 or something stupid.
I think it's the manner of the defeats as well. I managed to actually watch a bit of their game on Sunday. It was on TV. It was when they played Blackburn at home, and they were atrocious. Blackburn tore them apart. They were 3-0 up, and I know Blackburn had a man sent off then, and then Norwich scored late on, so I kind of made it look a little bit better. But they were awful. I think it's the manner of the defeat. You think Norwich in the Championship? They were expected to make a jump this year, weren't they?
Yeah, and when we beat them, we thought it was a really good result because they were okay in the league at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, but then you look back then and they got stuffed by Plymouth, didn't they? Put 6 past them.
Yeah.
So I think it's the manner of their defeats, especially when this year, including us, I think when we did that league table, we probably tipped them to make a bit of a step up this year. So the way the results are going, I can't see him being there much longer. He's got to be the next one to go. So carries on.
And Coventry, who started the season with high aspirations of being able to challenge near the top end, not doing very well. 4 losses in a row. Spent a lot of money on some of their forwards after Gyökeres left, and they are down in 20th place on 15 points.
Yeah, I know. That's a mad one as well, because I remember when the beginning of the season, I was singing Coventry's praises. I thought they were brilliant in that first game they played against Leicester, and then they looked really good. They just looked brilliant, and we had them quite early on, didn't we? And I think we draw 0-0 at home. It was quite early on in the season.
We drew with them, yeah.
Yeah, and we thought that was a great result, and we were like, that's a great result because Coventry playing so well, and then they seemed to have fallen off a cliff. Now I think it's probably they were playing so well, but they weren't getting results, and then they probably, it does you lose confidence a bit then, don't you? When you're not picking up the results. But again, it's the division, it's this league, isn't it? It's just crazy. It wouldn't surprise me now if they go on like a 5-game winning streak.
Could well happen. The midfield is very, very tight. Anyway, we'll move on from that. Last thing I want to do, we'll probably talk about the investment another time, because I think maybe I have a lot to say on that. But I promised some fan questions last week, didn't get to it, so I want to touch on them this week before we finish. So last week I asked out what do you want us to discuss, and Jason Rees at JasonRees7 on Twitter asked Swans' relationship with the loan players every season and the lack of academy players breaking through. So what do you think of that? It's more of a statement, but discuss the statement, really.
Yeah, I think it's fair, isn't it? I think this is why. I think a couple of podcasts ago we said that we probably are, unfortunately now we are a mid-table championship team. I think that's where we are. We're probably not, realistically, we're probably not going to be competing. We could maybe sneak into the playoffs, that sort of thing, but we're never going to be like we were before in the championship, competing at the top end. And I think the reason for that is loan players, and we haven't got a lot coming through at the moment. We've got to rely on a big change every year. I'm not sure of the number of loan players we got this year, but you can't find that consistency when basically half your team will be changing every year.
Yeah.
So I think this is a fair statement, and I think that's why at the moment we are where we are. But how would you address it?
I do think there's a place for them because you can't afford to necessarily.
Yeah, look, the loan system's always going to be massive in the championship. I mean, we've done it for even when we went up last time. We had loan players, but I think it's the level of loan players we have now. I remember it being, 2 or 3 in your squad maybe, but now we've got half of our starting 11 is probably on loan, which is worrying sometimes. So it's it's not sustainable, is it?
Definitely not sustainable. I guess we're talking about the issue we have with squad depth, and that's the easy fix, isn't it? But it's not a long-term fix. But I think a lot of championship clubs are in similar positions financially at the moment, and it's a balancing act. I think it's a difficult one to get right, you could say. Yeah,
you've always got to utilise the loan market. You've got unless you're like Leicester and Southampton and Leeds who are spending ridiculous money when they're in the championship. Everybody else has got to rely on the loan market in order to compete. So it's not going to go away anytime soon, but you don't want to become heavily reliant on it like we are at the moment. So it's exciting to get some of these players in, like Patino, and it's nice to get these players in, but you don't want to have, you don't want to have too many. They say never fall in love with a lone player, don't they?
Yeah. So we got another one in from Joey is Swansea, or at Joey is Swansea. Probably not going to answer this one in detail today because I think it would be good to do a little episode on this, but I'll read it out to you. What does the club need to do in January? What are the potential options to fix some of the issues in the squad? Maybe a budget option, a realistic option, dream option. So I think if we park that one,
that's a good one.
We can perhaps go in a bit more detail and do a little bit of a list of each category: budget, realistic, and dream. Have a bit of fun with that. Maybe in the international break, go in the next couple of weeks before Christmas. So definitely get to that, Joey. But you can maybe answer the first part about what we need in January if you want, because that's straightforward.
We need something up the top end of the pitch. I think I'm not going to slate Lowe, Yates,
wide. I think.
But we just need something different. You just need it was great when Janelli was there because you could. It's just having another option, just to try something different. I know nobody's playing particularly bad. It's just you need to have options. I think we're just seriously lacking at the top. At the moment.
It's the same thing. It's easy to plan for it for other teams because they know they can't offer something different, and we can nullify it. And it makes the players maybe look worse than they are. Like Yates is coming under a bit of criticism, but maybe it's because from me. If you know Yates is playing week in, week out, maybe it's easy to defend against that.
Yeah, no, you are right. It is. It's just this is like you said. It's easy to predict. Even though Ipswich have got a shorter turnaround than us, they'll be pretty confident they'll know our starting lineup for Saturday. Yeah.
And last one, we will do quick because I know we're running out of time. What do you think of the realistic aim for the league position should be this season? I think mid-table would be a good first season for Duff, and that is from at Raitaz159, Ridian Roderick. So realistic finish. I agree probably. I think we put it in our predictions mid-table. Yeah. I can't remember where we said now. But that would probably be where we are.
I think we might have just put us outside the playoffs, didn't we? I think, as being optimistic. But
got excited again.
Got a bit overexcited again. I would take... Look, we finished, 10th last year, I think. So around about that mark again, 10, top half is 12.
Go down, down to 12, somewhere like that.
Yeah. I think that's a fair start. I think that's where we are. And I think that's where we can realistically look to finish this season. So I'd take that.
Yeah, and where are we now? We're 14th, and one win puts us potentially 10th, depending on other results. So it is very tight in the midfield. But anything could happen. There's a long way to go. But thanks for the questions, guys. Keep getting them in. We're going to call it there because I know Lee's got places to be, and midweek it is busy evenings. But thanks as always for watching and listening, whatever platform you're on. Don't forget to like. If you're on one of the podcast services, Spotify or Apple, please take a moment, give us a rating, and on Apple maybe leave us a review. It really helps with pushing us out there to other people. And as I said, there's some exciting episodes coming up shortly, which I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy. Got some exciting people coming on, just dealing with the sort of logistics of it before we can announce anything. But yeah, looking forward to that. So we shall catch you in the next one. So see you next week, and thanks very much again.
No worries, see you soon.